Hi, this is Bill Guesswich. Today I'd like to cover Blazor Forms with Validation Part 2. In Part 1, we created a Blazor form and then added validation to it. Now there was a minor problem that maybe some of you experienced, maybe you haven't. I want to show you what that problem is, and then I want to show you the two possible alternatives to solving it. The first is to move the validation summary tag down on the form, and I'll show you that. And the second is to implement something called Edit Context. So let's go to Visual Studio and get started. Let me show you the problem first. So if I type in F, we've got a validation message. If I then fix this and I go to the Submit button, click it, it actually doesn't update. If you notice, this does not. You have to click it a second time and then it does. What's happening is that first click is just changing the focus off of first name and correcting the error, but it does not actually click the button. So there's a couple of ways to solve the problem. The first way is by moving the validation messages down under the button. Let's Control X that, and we will put this right there. Let's run it. Let's go to the person, and we will type in F, type in Flintstone, and 25, and we will click Submit. We'll fix it, and I'll click Submit, and notice it did update. So that's one way. You just put the messages below the button. And the reason this is happening, at least on the research that I've done, is because everything bounced down, that first click is actually getting rid of the message and bounces up, and it doesn't recognize the click of the button. So this way, putting the validation messages below actually makes it work. The other way is a little bit more involved, but I tend to like it a little bit better. So let me show you that. There are a couple of things that we do. First of all, what we're going to do is we are going to update the button to only show enabled when there's a valid form. So let's go ahead and do that. There's two ways on the edit form to specify. One is the model, to specify the model that you want or the data you want. One is to specify the model. The other is to specify an edit context. And in the documentation that I sent, it does start talking about edit context as well, so you can get more information there. But you define an edit context, and then you have a little bit more flexibility down in the code on what to do. So let's get rid of the model here. We'll add an edit context, and we'll make that edit context. Now it'll give us a red squiggly there because we have to define the edit context. Let's do that down here. And let's see, private edit context, and we'll call it edit context. There we go. The next thing we want to do is we want to define a Boolean as to when to say when this button is disabled. So let's define the Boolean. Private bool submit disabled equals true. So we'll make that equal to true right now, and we will change the button to disabled equals at submit disabled, and we will make this type equals submit. All right, there we go. So that is all we need there. Now we just need to add on the, let's override the uninitialized. And what we're going to do is let's create we have to add this dot edit context. So we need to set the edit context is equal to the new edit context. So we need to define it, and we need to tell it what type of variable we want it to model we want. So we'll define the my person. The next thing we want to do is we want to add an on field change event. So this dot edit context dot on field changed, and we want to subscribe to that, plus equals sender comma e, and we will set that equal to disable submit disabled equals, and you call edit context dot validate. So this is going to validate the form, and then it'll pass you back a Boolean, and if it's valid, then submit disabled will be false, so we will enable the button, and if it's invalid, submit disabled will be true, and the button will be disabled. And then we just need to tell the form that the state has changed, and that'll update everything accordingly. Let's do a little cleanup. We don't really need to call that, so we will take care of that. So what's happening here is every time a field changes, so you tab out of a field, it does that. It will check that, and then when it does, it'll update the button accordingly. Let's run it. Go to the person object, person component. We'll type in Fred, tab away. Oh, and it gives you the messages. Notice the button is not enabled. I can't click on it at all. So I will go correct Fred. I will type in Flintstone. I will type in 2, and notice it's still red. I type in 28. Tab away, the button is enabled, click submit, and there we go. So those are the two ways to solve that problem. Thanks for watching, and please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or comments. I look forward to hearing from you.